In this video I'll show you how you can recreate this environment in Blender. If you're interested in the building and in the vehicle, I've already uploaded the video tutorials on my profile. If you want the full scene, you can find the 3D file on xrpage.com. For creating the ground, I've used a add-on in Blender, and you can go on Edit, Preferences, search for Landscape, and enable it. After that, press Shift A on the keyboard and add the landscape. Here down below you can select the operator preset, and I've used Canyon. I've placed the scene in this spot here. Now apply the subdivision surface modifier and I've set it to 2 in the viewport and 3 for the render. To create the water, just add a normal cube and move it down below, in this way. For creating the shader of the ground, I've used 2 different materials, both are from Ambient CG. One is the rock 029 and the other is the ground 068. I've changed a little bit the color of both. So for the rock 029, the hue value is 0.47 and the saturation is at 1.25. And for the color of the ground 068, that basically is the kind of moss that you can see here in the viewport shading, I've added 0.05 at the saturation. In order to mix these 2 materials, I've used a noise texture with the scale of 20, the details to 15, and a color ramp that has the white indicator to 0.34 and the black indicator to 0.52. This one is the factor of the mix shader, and for the displacement I've used a mix color node with the same factor of the mix shader, and obviously the A and B input are the displacement of the 2 textures. So the material of the water is this one. At the start there are 2 mix color. The first mix color has 0.8 as a factor, the A value is a texture coordinate set to object, and the B value is a noise texture, the default one. After I've used a mapping only because in this way you can have more control. In fact, I've changed the scale, I've used the 3 on all the 3 axes. The second mix color has 0.7 for the factor, the A value is another noise texture, with 11 for the scale and details to 5.3. The B value is this result. I've used this mix color as the vector for all these 4 Vorne textures. So this 2 Vorne texture has for the scale the value of 30, and this other 2 has the value of 60. After I've used in both the cases a matte node and a color ramp. So in order to have the add node, you can press Shift A and search for matte. After the 2 color ramps, I've used another mix color node, this time is set to add. You can change it here, from mix to add. And the factor is to 1. This is the factor of the mix shader, that has for the first shader a glass BSDF. The IOR is to 1.3 and the color is this one, so if you want you can copy it. The second value is this transparent BSDF that has this color here. For the volume I've just used a simple principled volume that has this color, and for the density 0.05. For the displacement I've used a noise texture with 230 for the scale, and the displacement is set to 0.01. For creating the trees you can use this add-on, so go to Edit, Preferences like before, and search for tree and enable this add-on here. After that, press Shift A, Curve and Sampling Tree. Now switch the preset, and after that, if you go to Branch Splitting, you can add the levels. Once you're done, go to Leaves and press on Show Leaves. And here down below, you can change the scale of the leaves. And for what regard the leaf shape, I've used rectangular. Now select the tree and keep in mind that if your computer is not really powerful, you can downgrade the resolution of the bevel and the resolution of the mesh here. After, press Convert to and select Mesh. So now it's actually an object. Go on Shader Editor and add a texture. I've used Bark 012 from AmiaCG. After that you've applied the material, press Tab in order to enter Edit mode. Select all the faces and press Unwrap and Smart UV Project. So now you can control the scale here. So for what regard the leaves, I've used this material. The textures are from the leaf 001 from AmiaCG. Use a mix color set to multiply with the factor to 1. The A value is the ambient occlusion and the B value is the base color. After the multiply node, there is a hue saturation value, and I've used saturation to 1.3 and the value is at 0.2, but you can select the values that you want. For example, if I change the hue value, I'll have different colors for the leaves. I've added a translucent BSDF, but keep in mind that if you connect the result of the multiply to the translucent, you'll have this problem, so that basically the alpha channel will be rendered as black. So we need a mixed shader that has as the factor the alpha channel. The first shader is the transparent and the second one is the translucent. So in this way you get rid of the problem. So as you can see, this is the default texture because the mix shader is set to 1. If I use the translucent BSDF and I set the mix shader to 0.8, when there are lots of trees, I can have more areas where the light passes, and this is also more realistic. So I recommend to you to use the translucent BSDF because in this way you'll have more realistic results. If you want that for one face corresponds one leaf, you should select all the faces. After, go to UV editor and start to scale the square. After that, go back to the edit mode, switch to individual origins and recreate the same shape that you've used in the UV editor. Keep in mind that before that you join the leaves and the rest of the tree, the main part of the tree has to be all selected in edit mode, and the leaves doesn't have to be selected, because in this way when you select the rest of the tree and the leaves, right click and join and go to edit mode, the only part that is selected is the main part of the tree. So now, because as you can see the texture is stretched, you can press another time Unwrap Faces and the Smart UV Project. So in this way now you have only one object for the tree. Before creating the particle system that I've used in order to create a little forest, I recommend to you to create a different variation of this one tree. Select the landscape and switch to white paint. And in the white paint mode, the parts you color are those where there will be trees. So for example, if I paint here, and after I go to particle systems and go back to object mode, press on plus, select air and advanced. For the render, use object if you have only one tree, otherwise use collection. Go on vertex groups and for density, select a group. Now obviously decrease the number change the scale in order to make it realistic, and enable rotation. Here you can also make it a little bit random. The grounds cover is created in a similar method of the leaves, so I've chosen some textures from my MCG. One is the foliage 007 and the other is the foliage 006. In the UV editor tab, I've selected all the 4 vertices and I've scaled them in order that for one plane corresponds only one bundle of grass. I've repeated the same method also for the other texture. After that, I've imported all the planes in the main Blender file. I've pressed M on the keyboard and I've created a new collection. I've used this collection in the particle system. The particle system is the same one that I've used for the tree, but this time I've set a collection and not object, because in this way I'll have 5 different bundles of grass. As you may have noticed, the distribution of the trees is different than the grounds cover and the grass. You can do that by pressing on data and here click on plus. After that, go on the particle system of the grass and select the second group. As you can see, this is the first group and this is the second one. I've modified a little bit the texture of the foliage 007. So I've used the hue saturation value node with hue at 0.45 and saturation 2.9 that is connected to a translucent BSDF. After, there is a mix shader that has for the first input a transparent BSDF and for the second input a translucent. The factor is the alpha texture. I've used another mix shader. The factor is 0.05 and the first input is the mix of the translucent and the transparent, and the second input is the normal texture. I've used a low factor like this one, because otherwise, as you can see, the grass will be really bright and I don't like this effect. So I prefer to use 0.05 only on one texture, so we have a part of the grass that is more bright and another part that is darker. In fact, how you can see from here, the foliage 006 exposed to the light is really bright and the foliage 007 is darker. But if I change the direction of the camera, so in this way we have a mixed effect look. For creating this plant here that you can see also from the render, press Shift A, add a plane, and scale it a little bit. Now select the material. I've used the leaf 003 from MCG. Press Tab in order to enter edit mode, and in the UV editor tab start to scale the square. After that, move the leaf and press Object, set Origin to 3D cursor. Now press another time tab, press Ctrl R and something like 5 on your keyboard. Select this edge here, go on proportional editing, press G and Z and start to bend it a little bit. Okay, now press R, X, and from here you can start to duplicate by pressing Shift D, R and Z, for example RZ90 and Shift R. In this way you can create, for example, more levels like I've done here. There are 3 levels as you can see, first one, second one and third one. For doing that, just press Shift D another time, R, Y, and after, if you want, you can also scale. Press R, Z45 and Shift D, R, Z45 or 90, and after press Shift R 2 other times. So as you can see, more leaves you'll create and more accurate it will be. Now I'll show you how you can recreate the lightning that I've used. So for the sky I've used this HDRI from MCG. I've kind of played with the mapping node with the rotation. After the HDRI, I've used a gamma node with the gamma set to 1.2. After, I've used a mixed color node with factor at 0.1, and for the B value I've used this color, and for the background I've used the strength at 2. That's all for this video. If you want to know how I've created the other object in the render, I've already uploaded the video tutorials on my profile, and I hope that you like this video, subscribe for more, and see you all in the next one.